For this year's workshop, I'm going to be making a sequel to my first ever workshop game, which was The Revenge of Vlad, which was a rampage-inspired game where players would climb and destroy buildings. As the name suggests, it's a reference to Aaron's own Vlad character, where Vlad was so upset that people just were not buying his game, he built a giant robot suit and decided to go on a rampage. It didn't turn out very well due to an engine swap and just a bunch of different mechanics that I kept iterating on way too much, and was just overall kind of a mess. But I did learn a lot, and that brings us to the Revenge of Vlad's Revenge. So this will be made as in Godot 4.2. It will be a much more fast-paced game compared to the first one. Players will be moving faster and going to the right of the screen. They'll be trying to escape and destroy the military as well as the city and get back to their cave. So this was, of course, inspired by the original Rampage game, as well as more modern reimaginings of Rampage, such as Terror of Hemosaurus and Laser Lizard, both very good games that I would recommend. The story is, so after the first game where Vlad goes on a rampage, the humans are not very happy about that. So the military launches an all-out assault on him, sending out different units, and they want to bomb him. And Vlad is, of course, a little scared, so he's running away in his new mecha suit and is trying to get back to his cave before the military can end him. So the actual game loop will be pretty simple. You start moving to the right once you spawn in the game. Enemies start coming at you, different military units, and you start fighting them off. You then destroy stuff and just try to get to the end of the level. If you die or the game timer runs out, you lose. If you get to the end, you win. And then for mechanics, we have for movement, it's kind of standard platform movement. You can walk left and right, but the jump is a little different. You actually have to hold down the jump button. The longer you hold it for, once it's released, the higher he'll jump, but if you release it a little sooner, he'll jump a little lower. And then for combat, he'll have a few different attacks he can use. He'll have his just a standard punch, and when he jumps and lands, that'll do damage to the surrounding environment. He'll also have laser eyes, which I'm thinking he can kind of guide with his with the mouse. And he will have a sonic scream, which will be more of an area of effect attack. So his health is, of course, chipped away by enemies and different stage hazards, but he can actually regain his health by destroying buildings. The kind of in-lore explanation for that is he's like, a vampire bat, and he regains health from blood. But in this case, he's just gone so far with it and has become so sadistic that he can actually heal just like by watching destruction and stuff. And then we have the environment. This will be a cityscape. It'll be just one long level. At the end of it will be Vlad's cave, so he's trying to, kind of run back home. So enemies will mostly just be military units, comprised of like different tanks and helicopters and stuff. There'll be just very simple AI that will shoot at the player with projectiles. And not only will they be shooting at the player, but they will also be shooting at buildings. So not only will they be chipping away at your health, but they'll be chipping away at your resources. I'm thinking there will also be like a big boss mecha at the end of the level. So for win-loss conditions, of course, you lose if the timer runs out. If the timer runs out, Vlad is bombed and, of course, dies, and the game restarts. Same as if his health reaches 0 from being shot at or different stage hazards and stuff. And the only way to win is to reach the end of the level and get to the safety of the cave. Now the camera will be pretty standard. It will be a right-moving camera. It won't be following the player up or to the left. That is to just kind of keep the player moving forward, so they can't really go back because there'll be like invisible walls around the camera. And then for building destruction, that will also be pretty simple. It will just be if you hit a building, it will shake a little bit, and then once that building's health reaches 0, it will crumble and leave behind its rubble sprite, and then of course give Vlad some health. So for art direction, art will actually be made by a friend of mine outside of the program called a co. I, of course, got permission from the professor to use somebody outside of the program. So everything will be made in a software called Stick Nodes and will be mostly a flat 2D kind of art style. So far, we have the Vlad Mech 2.0, which I think is a pretty good improvement on the first mecha design. I think it looks pretty cool. And then finally, we have our sound design. So for music, I'm thinking it will be kind of just standard 8-bit chip tune, but it'll be getting like more and more intense as the level goes on to signify, the timer running out. And then sound effects, those will also be kind of standard 8-bit crunchy sounds made in sfxer.me, which is a pretty good program for just quick sounds for like game jams and stuff. So yeah, that will be this year's project, and I'm really excited to get it started.